Hi, I'm Susan and welcome to my video. Today I'm going to show you how I make my simple Day of the Dead bracelet with my sugar skulls. It's a very easy straight string. You just need lots of these little sugar skulls and a marguerite bead. It's one of those things that's not very difficult to make but can be time consuming making all the skulls. If you happen to like this bracelet, just simply comment, subscribe, and share my video and you could be in the winning. 4 weeks after I put this video up, somebody will be the new owner. So let's get started. So to start our bracelet, I have laid out my skulls and I've laid out my clasp, and I'm measuring this out, and it measures, now I'm not measuring from the end of the flower, I'm measuring from the center of the flower because that's where the clasp will hook into. So I'm coming in at almost 7 inches. And you say, well, bracelet's 7.5 inches. I have not figured this out yet because this is my first one. I think I'm going to have a little bit more space between these with beads because I just don't think the beads are going to lay perfectly. And around the wrist, it's going to need a little bit more movement. So when you start to pull that out, it's probably going to hit, yes, closer to 7.5. So when you're working with beads and starting out this way, you kind of have to fiddle with it as you start. Now I have my thread, which is some Nymo thread. I buy this off of Amazon. It comes in a multicolored pack, or you can buy a solid color and use some Sharpie marker and dye it, whatever works for you. I also am using Doris beading needles. Whoops, let me get this into the, there we go. They don't have a size on them, but they're just really easy for me to thread. So I've stretched the thread. This is how you get the little knots out of it. It's just pull on it and it'll make it straighten up and hopefully behave correctly. And so I'm not cutting the end of the thread. I'm just going to leave it there and start with it. I'm going to start over here, and I think I'm going to use a number 6 bead. These are just some ones that you can get at our local craft store, Joann's, in the US. And I'm going to put a number 6 on, and then I'm going to add some number 11s. Now, how many number 11s I'm using depends on how far I go from that edge of the flower to the center, and right there I need to continue adding because this will be underneath the flower, so we want to make sure it's enough beads under there to get to the center of the flower. Otherwise it will overlap over our skull, which we don't want to lose. Our beautiful skulls, we spent so much time making those. So as you can see, once I push this down, you can still see that bead, and that's what's important. So I'm going to add one of these about 3mm crystals, and I have a number 15 stopper, which I'm not even sure you're going to see with the camera. There we go, yeah. And I am just going to go back through the crystal and not the stopper bead so that this will act as a stopper and also an ornamental detail in my bracelet because I like the way the flower looks as a clasp. I consider the clasp part of the artwork. So now I have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 beads I put to the center of the flower, so I have to add 9 beads. And those 9 beads, then I go back through my number 6. And this will act as the clasp. So now, since we're going to be going both ways, you could take 2 needles and go each way. I find that too confusing. So I'm just going to use 1 needle and decide whether I want to start up or down. And I think I'm going to start up. So in order to go up through the skulls, I think I'm going to add a few of these seed beads. Let me find where that hole is. I actually can't see it. How about I go through this side? There we go. Ah, hiding right there. So let's see, and this is a process of trial and error when you make your own beads as to where the spot will be. So you at least have this process figured out for me on how to do yours. Now, I'm trying to see how far am I from the clasp. See, the clasp is not in the middle here. I need that bead to be down in the middle of this bead so that when I come up on the other side, it meets up. So that means I have to go back out, whoops, through my bead and start to add some more beads. So let me straighten this out and come back. Okay, so I've gotten that figured out, and I realized that rather than adding those seed beads up at the top here from our number 6, I'm going to add another number 6, one of these really pretty iridescent crystals, another number 6, and then I'm going to go through my skull. And that should be about halfway through. And like I said, this is a process of trial and error. Once you've seen me do it, it'll give you a better idea. But sometimes you have to fiddle with this stuff until you get it right. So I'm finding in between these skulls, I may just put one of these crystals. I like these iridescent ones because they're not particularly a color. Now the problem is I did not drill out these holes for my skulls, and as you can see, they really blend in. They're pretty darn hard to see. So that is the price I pay. And let me see if that will fit together. Oh, that'll fit nice. So I'm just going to travel through to the other side by adding all my skulls, and then I will show you when I get to the turnaround, which will be the clasp for this flower. So let me get all the way over here and then I'll come back. So I'm at the other end, and I have to measure this out again because I want to make sure that I'm still at 7.5, and I am just at 7.5 with the clasp. So I may end up adding another 1/4 or a 1/2 inch with the clasp here. So you always have to be careful because you never know how far this is going to add when you add your beads. Sometimes it looks like it's just going to fit so easily, and sometimes it can just stretch out and be a 12-inch bracelet, which, as I call it, then converts to a necklace that's 16 inches. You only need to add the 4 more inches, but it's very easy for this to lose its size, so you can lose completely what you're doing here. Now, I would normally add the crystal and then have this crystal go in and do the clasp, but I think that's going to add me an extra 1/2 inch. So I am not going to add that at all. I am just going to add enough for this to fit through, and I'm going to add nothing but size 11 seed beads going from one end to the other. And this, once again, is a trial and error of adding beads and pushing the button through and adding beads and pushing the marguerite through until you find that it's like a button and you can just fit it through tightly. So I will finish this up, find the right amount, and come back and show you how this works. So I have enough beads that it fits through perfectly. If you hold this tight, you can see that the flower fits through and it's not going to come out. You want to make sure that it's like a buttonhole. It's kind of tight. If it's loose, this will completely undo on itself when it's on somebody's wrist. So you've got to be very careful. Now the question is, do I have enough room to put a crystal between these flowers? I really like these flowers in between. I think they add a lot, and I don't think I have enough room for a crystal. So let's see if we just put these size 6 seed beads, because if it comes down between the polymer clay and the crystals, I'm picking the polymer clay this time. I really like the colors. And let's see how this works. Now, oh yeah, I do like that. And it works perfectly in between, although, I don't know. Could work, could not work. Could be a little tight. I think these flowers I have here are too tight. I may have to switch to a crystal because I think my flowers are too big. So let's go back. And this is what you end up doing when you build your own beads. It's just trial and error. And don't be afraid if it doesn't work out. It's just beads and string. You always cut it and start over again. So I think if I did maybe a crystal, as much as I really liked the polymer clay flowers, I think we'll do a crystal in between. And I have black crystals here, but I really like the sparkle that the iridescent crystals are adding. And so let's see, I think that may be a little tighter fit. I want the heads to line up side. Yes, that is the answer. I want these to line up side by side, and unfortunately the crystals work better than the flowers, so I have to scrap the flowers, but maybe in the necklace we'll use them. Don't give up yet. We have lots of other things we can use them in. Okay, so I'm just going to continue adding my crystals and my size 6 as I go across. And so I will come back when I get close to the flower here and we will finish up the clasp. So I'm back at the clasp and I'm going through my number 6 that I originally put the clasp in with, and I'm going back up through that little vine that I put the marguerite in, and I'm going to start to add more crystals. Let's see how this fits. Oh, works out pretty well. So I kind of have to go through this. There's a number 15. I'm adding my crystal and my 15, and I'm going to travel back up through the skulls and then back up again. And you're probably saying, why are you doing all that? I actually can't see if this bracelet fits correctly until I get it reinforced, and the only way to reinforce it is to actually string the whole thing. So like I said, it's a painful process if it doesn't work. If it works, it's a fabulous process, but once I get this gone through one more time, and when I go through this the second time, I will peyote this end, so I'll come back when I peyote it, and then we'll see if it fits. So I've decided that I should probably go around this clasp one more time. So I'm going down through these number 11s, and rather than going back through the skulls, I am going back up through this other side and adding another crystal. So this will reinforce my toggle. So I'm adding my crystal, and I know I have a 15 someplace on here. There it is. Actually blends with my mat. And I'm going to go back down through this, and then I'm going to go back down through the original top of the skull and come back around to the other side to the clasp where we will peyote it, and hopefully this all works out. I don't know, and many a times I've had a failure with this, so we'll see. So I'm at the other end and I want to peyote this clasp here, but I want a larger peyote so that it'll stand out around my flower, because I kind of want this extra green. So I'm using, whoops, I didn't go through the first bead. Let me go through the first bead, and I'm going to use number 15s and the 11s, and the 11s are the original 11s that I started with, so I'm going to use a number 15, a number 11, and then another number 15. And what I'm going to do is skip a bead and then add the same thing, and that will give me this little beautiful little picot that when I come through again, I can just go through and add more beads, and it'll leave a lovely lacy edge, and it'll also make this easier to put on. Plus, every time you go around this, it reinforces it. So what you're getting is this beautiful little picot, and right now it's going up and down, but it will go all in the same direction. And so we're going to go through these top ones when we come around again. So I'm going to continue that, and I'm going to go around the entire bracelet again and come back to here, and then we will add the rest of the number 15s. So it's kind of boring to watch, so I'll come back in a minute. So I'm at the other end where we have the end of our thread. Now if you had left a thread tail there, you can tie it off here. I'm tying it off with a surgeon's knot, which is twice over and under in one direction and twice over and under in the other direction, and then I will cut it off. I will weave back through all of these skulls, and then we will come back here at this end where we will peyote the end, and we're done. So we're at the other clasp, and I have reinforced this all with knots as I've gone through this, and I'm going to add 3 of the number 15s. I've gone up through to the 11, and I'm going to add my 15s from that 11 to this 11. So I'm just crossing over, and I'm just going to continue adding 3 number 15s in between this bridge. And that will give me this beautiful lacy edge, which also reinforces it and keeps this open so it's easier to use. Oops, I skipped one there, so let me go back. Whoops. So down here is the other one. Very easy to do when I'm in the air 2 inches from the camera. And so you'll see how you start to get this little lacy ruffle. And I'm just going to continue to add all of the number 15s in here all the way around, and then I'm going to go through and knot it, and I'll come back and show you the finished bracelet. So here's our finished bracelet, and you can see where the clasp is. You can move it around. Now, a lot of you are going to say to me, there's another way you could do it, and I know. We could have put these skulls up and down like that, but I was trying to get the flowers in between here, and so I left the skulls in one direction. So there's 2 different ways you can do it, just up to you which way you want to do it. Whichever you prefer, that's the way to do it. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you have fun making one. Thanks a lot for watching.